This is the October 24th, 2022 Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting. Um, there's me, Linda, Siobhan, and Diane in attendance, and Doug, Tom, and Aljani that are not here yet. Aljani's traveling, so she may or may not make it. The first thing on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from August 10th. Anybody have any?
Which is, I missed changing that. It's supposed to be September, and I didn't
September.
write them down.
September 10th?
Yeah,
So
I approve the minute. I move to approve the minutes.
there
A
aren't any
second?
minutes yet.
Oh, so we don't even see the minutes, so never mind.
No, we don't. And I forgot to change, from
The
I
date,
changed the other things, but I forgot to change that.
the date.
Okay,
So
so
next time I'll have September, October.
yeah, that's fine. So the next thing is the community gardens. They will be here later. So I guess
Yes.
we move on to the discussion of keeping of animals policies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Natasha did some work, Diane did some work, I did some work. I'm not sure quite where to go with it from here. Do we
We need the other
keep
members to
marking
take
it
a
up
look at
to?
it. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how much more there really is
Okay.
to change because I mean I'm thinking less is more, but at the same time there were some things like the on the regulations, the chart that they have for animals and or housing requirements. Or
Mhm.
when I looked at where that information came from, it was based on like full size meat dairy production animals, like the pig. You need so and so much space for it, which is fine. But the website where they got the information from UNH looked like it was talking about like 1,000-pound pigs, not the 100, 200, 300-pound potbelly pigs that people are more likely to get. Um, and from what I understand, potbelly pigs, they're indoor animals. I mean, you can have them indoor, outdoor, but most people that get pigs tend to keep them indoors. They treat them like dogs. They're smarter than dogs. They're cleaner than dogs.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
So is it, maybe we make a note about if you have a different breed of this general type of animal to, I don't want people to have to go through a variance application, but maybe you can
Right,
request that variance within the application or
right.
explain,
I feel like anybody that's
provide X number of feet because this is a popular.
right. I feel like anybody that's getting one of those big pink pigs isn't getting it for a pet. They're getting it for meat. So
Right.
to me, I don't know if
But
that
still
makes
might
sense.
not be commercial.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But like some people will get a piglet, raise it, and then take it to the butchers and have it, slaughtered. Is that something you need a
Right.
piglet for? Because you're only going to have it for however long it takes to raise that piglet to the size that you want.
Yeah, but I think you do.
Yeah, and that's something I don't know. I don't know if that's even come up yet, but that's something like I think about. One of my foster tales.
I like your visitor.
Thank you.
Oh,
Um,
And
yeah.
the same goes for the goats. They're talking about dairy goats, which I mean aren't huge, but pygmy goats, which are I think what most people would probably go for as pets, are significantly smaller. And the chickens requirement, I mess with a little because a lot of the requirements for spacing said 3 to 4 or 20 to 25 square feet, and having that like difference or that range, like for the woman in on Fay Street with the woman whose house was
on Pershing Street.
yeah,
Yep.
um, number were they using for how or the guy on Brook Street, which number were they using for calculating if he did or didn't have enough space?
Mhm.
Was it 3 square feet
Yeah.
or and everything that I've read and everything I've seen says total 10 square feet minimum.
Mm.
3 square feet in the coop, 7 square feet in the run, something like that.
So we
Because
could be a little bit more
yeah,
definite.
in the coop they're in there at night. They're not, and they're on the roosting bars. Also, like those requirements don't take into consideration height.
Uh,
And is all that for six chickens that you're talking about? Like if you have the
square
basic
feet per chicken,
per chicken,
per
10
chicken,
10
10.
square feet per chicken. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's nice to have that like as a reference for if someone's thinking to expand, that I probably have enough space to have 12 chickens, in terms of, just so people have an idea
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
But
But
with chickens and they roost at night, so you want to make sure you have enough height inside the coop for them to roost. And there's a lot of like research and a lot of articles on that I found pretty interesting because when we were building our coops. And then there's some chickens that don't roost. My silkies, they roost because I train them to, but most silkies don't. They stay on the bottom because they don't have great eyesight. They're not big birds. They don't fly.
mhm.
They're more likely to hurt themselves falling off of a roost.
Now that's a vision.
Oh, it's happened. I knock them off once in a while. But
Uh,
like my silkies, I've got like a 3-tier roost that goes up and around the inside of the coop. And so they will walk up a ramp to the first rung or the first roost, but they won't go on the second and third one, the higher ones. And then I have it like overlapped in a way so that they're not pooping on each other.
So what have I missed? I apologize for being late.
Just talking about like the size requirements or the enclosure requirements that they have on the regulations, and we adjusted them a little bit because the regulations that the information they were using was coming from UNH and it was based on like production size animals, like meat animals, and not necessarily like what people are actually going to get for pets, like pygmy goats, or, potbelly pigs, animals
I
like that.
thought earlier on, I saw something that one of you dredged up that was pretty applicable to what we want or what should go on or what we think is smart for Framingham. Am I missing something? Didn't I? When we first started talking about this, the first round several months ago, you had done a lot of work and it seemed to me, and I said to you at the time, let's just go with stuff that's been used in other towns and not reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And that's our best argument with them, because especially now that they don't really have an admin, they have a sort of assistant director. I doubt that they'll replace the director. They may put another inspector or something on, but I don't. I think that you got to work with what you've got. I think David Moore is pretty interested in coming up with some sort of solution. So anyway, did you go back to that? Because this doesn't look like that.
Well, a lot of the towns follow around, especially the ones around us, have followed the same template.
Uh-huh.
Now, some people have requirements, some people don't. I don't think the Board of Health, I don't think Robin Williams is going to accept us deleting a lot of stuff and saying we're going to get rid of all this and we're going to follow what this town is doing. So we just kind of tried to edit it a little bit.
Well, if we don't get what we want, there's always a higher power. If the Board of Health says no, then we can petition the city council to look at it. I'm sure they'd love to have a discussion of chickens.
I think part of our goals in this was that it's hard to find, it's hard to wade through, especially if you've got 6 chickens. You just need to have a registration, but you're signing something saying that you understand the rest of the 10 pages.
Yeah,
Um,
there's
so
no
when I
need for 10 pages. Yeah, that's your point, I think, isn't it?
well, partly, especially for registering 6 chickens.
Right,
I
it's
just-
nonsense.
Yeah.
One page application is enough.
And so what I saw from Somerville, yes, Somerville, was they had their registration page and it included all those chicken things. I'll have X number of square feet and I'll make sure that this is rodent proof and that whole litany of things. There's like 20 things on their list. And so you sign the registration form that you understand these specific things, not this other document that people probably don't read through and don't understand.
So is it the
Separate
purpose
that
of, is it the purpose here to just say, here, this is what we recommend having? There hasn't been any real contact because there hasn't been anybody to contact with, right? Is that
Right.
Yeah, okay. So does it make sense to just ask for a meeting, to go to a meeting and say, here, this is what we recommend, and give them the one pager and see where it goes?
We could try that.
Yeah, why not? What do you have to lose?
Just kind of how much, what the format. So we've got uh, Natasha and I worked on putting comments on the regulations, and Diane worked on commenting and splitting the permit, so it had like more check boxes and less fill in the blank, I guess.
Yeah,
And then I kind of just wrote my thought process because that's the way I had to do it. And then outlining the things that we wanted to address, and we can give more explanation to those of why.
Yeah.
But kind of ran out of time, so I'm not sure exactly how to.
I think the
we
simplest approach is the best approach. You've all worked hard on it. I just think that it's time. Framingham has a habit, and this has developed over the past, I don't know, 30, 35 years or so, of over-regulating, re-regulating, making things that are simple difficult. And that's the reputation the town has of being very that's why you always hear these guys talking about, well, Framingham wants to be business friendly. Framingham is not business friendly. Framingham is not friendly in any stretch of the imagination. The new mayor is trying to do something about that, but it takes time to unwind all of this stuff. And most of the bureaucrats, like the people at the Board of Health, love to have paperwork and love to have, documentation, all that stuff that gives them a reason for being and gives them an excuse for needing another inspector, because, well, look at all this stuff we have to review. So here we can do the Paperwork Reduction Act.
so do you think, I guess I struggle with kind of two approaches to either, take what's already there and say where we want to modify it, versus saying, here's something that we think is better that includes all this stuff with some modifications.
You want to take a shot at both of them, although not giving them, see, that's the trouble. If you give them two things to choose from, they'll choose the one that's the most complicated, because that's what bureaucrats do.
Okay, so we give them the simpler one, and
I
then if
would.
they shoot
Yeah.
that down, say, all right, well, here's our backup proposal.
Yeah,
Give it to them, not give them both at the same time.
no, give them the one page and give them something to think about, because they can't defend the 10-page document. There's no way they can defend it.
No, it's
So, and we can defend the one-page document. So we don't want them to look bad, feel bad, be embarrassed, or anything like that. But we can defend what our point of view is much better than they can defend theirs.
So let's see. So in the course of the past couple of weeks, I called or emailed and then ended up speaking with Catherine McKenzie, who's the animal inspector.
how'd that
Animal-
go?
And she knows
It
nothing
it
about.
went really well.
You did it good. What did she have to say?
I thought, well, I kind of explained what we were trying to do, and she was fine with that. But she explained, I mean, you guys know, Diane and I and Siobhan are probably the ones that don't know that she has a two-hat thing. I contacted her because I saw that there's a census that they have to do every year. They have to count every single animal in the city. And so I wanted to know what we had. And she says, oh, well, she's an agent of the state. So that's really the state's information, and she couldn't give me their inventory of animals.
Why couldn't she give it to you?
That doesn't sound right. That's public information.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
She said I could ask the state, but
Yeah.
she, as the inspector in Framingham, as an agent of the state, couldn't release it.
Whenever there's a problem, whenever we have a problem at Eastleigh, because she doesn't know what she's doing, she brings the staties in to justify or to rectify or to modify or do whatever it is that needs to be done. She won't take responsibility herself, which is okay, because that's better. She doesn't know anything. She's getting to know stuff, but she's been, mostly they're concerned down there are dogs and cats. They don't know, and as there are fewer farms to deal with, the one thing is, though, that there are a lot of people I have a friend who lives over by the country club, and she said, how many chickens can I have without getting into a big deal? And I said, 6. She said, well, do I have to file a permit? I said, well, you have to fill out a form. But don't do it right away because maybe there'll be some changes.
Right. And that actually says a lot, because she has to ask, and maybe she has to search a lot to find out how many chickens can I have without going through a big production.
Because it's buried in the middle of
Yeah.
that 10-page document.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Very
And,
user friendly.
and as I was reading through what you prepared for this, and I was looking through and seeing what some of the goals of our committee are, one of our goals is to simplify things for the residents of Framingham who want to farm.
Brilliant.
And
That's
as
a
part of
brilliant point.
that-
That's how you start the meeting. Diane, that's how you start the meeting. Seriously.
It's like just going back to basics. If we just take this whole big giant behemoth of a document and we say, let's get back to basics. Some of the people who created these documents, we don't know who they are.
Well, they've been dead for
But if-
20 years, most of them.
But if we, if we could just say, somehow go back and simplify everything and say, we're here to we're representing the residents of Framingham in a way, and try to make farming simpler, all this simpler. So how can we, if someone wants to get a chicken, they don't just want one, they need 6. How do we make that simple for them?
Isn't it that they don't have to have, what is it? They can have up to 6,
And then they need a permit after 6,
but
right?
they
Yeah.
don't have to tell anybody they have under 6.
No, no,
They just register them,
They
Yeah.
register.
There's a
Like-
one page.
like a dog or some of the other animals. You have to register your dog and have a license. so you
Yeah,
have to
okay. So we need to have a
register.
dog collar on a chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not each
Don't-
individual chicken.
For under 6 is free, and it's just a one sheet. This is what I have. This is what I have. You don't have to do anything else.
Right, but that's kind of also, you don't have to do anything else, but if there's a complaint, that's where people get stuck.
Yeah.
Because that half of all the regulations in that 10-page, except for notifying abutters, still apply to the 6 chickens.
Yeah. And the regulations, that's a lot of definitions that are just necessary.
Mhm.
Like, people know what a pig is. People know what poultry is. People know what a pigeon is. Does it really need to be defined? But
The answer is no.
So,
Back to
okay.
simple.
So it sounds like the way to approach this is to take, I don't know, unless if anybody else has some other town that they like. I know Natasha mentioned Hudson, but to start
I
with
like
somebody else's that's simpler and go with that rather than
Well, we like to think Hudson is an up and coming powerhouse in many ways. A community that has changed a great deal in the last 10, 15 years, but still seems to be able to keep a handle on what's going on, like Southborough, kind of. Whereas we fancy ourselves as a new big city. I think that it might register more if we compare ourselves to Somerville, AKA another city, or
More
i.e.
urban.
another city, than someplace like Hudson that's a little thought of as a little burg.
I'm happy to start with what Somerville did. I think between their, I don't know how much you had a chance to take a look at it because I sent it out kind of late, but
I
um,
saw that. I thought it was a great example. And even on the side as a beekeeper, thinking about what people, being mindful of your neighbors in a realistic way as far as borders. I thought Somerville looked, like a really nice example. They might have gone a little overboard, but
I'm
Well, they're
not
much
going to.
more congested for them in the
Right.
main. They're more congested than Framingham is. So if they make this simple page work, then why can't we?
That was kind of my thought, and
Mhm.
there's no way I'm going to drag bees into this if they're not already in it.
no, we'll leave them out.
Right, leave the
Yeah.
bees out, but
But
I like the way that they included the either personal gardens, community gardens, all
Mhm.
that in with, so they have a goal for us for later is an urban agriculture plan rather than just animal regulations.
Mhm.
And we kind of have no plan for urban agriculture. And we've got plans for lots of other things with sustainability, but nobody's talking about urban agriculture.
Mhm.
Well, it depends on how you define urban agriculture. I don't think I told you because I wasn't in a position to tell you the last time we had a meeting, but I've formed a partnership with two other fellas, and we have bought the old Fafford estate, and we're going to create
Wow.
an agrihood, which is a neighborhood based around a
Wow.
farm.
That sounds
Wow,
amazing.
that's
Yeah.
incredible.
So it's not
Nice.
property's not going to be developed and turned into condos or
Well, no, it's gonna be turned into single houses that are built. We're putting them in among the trees. And we're building a 2-acre garden that will be a community garden for people. They can
Wow.
have a garden in their own home, in their own yard if they want. They can participate in the community garden. If they have animals, they can keep them, or we'll keep them for them. There's a place for 17 or 18 horses to be stalled. We'll build corrals for them, that sort
Wow.
of thing.
sounds
Nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we're
Nice
gonna have our
work.
first, we're gonna have our first visit with the planning board a week from Thursday. And the neighbors we'll have a meeting with them the night before that probably.
Let us know if we can do anything to support this. And
Well, you can support it. Well, we'll wait, let's see how the first hearing goes. It may not take, because the way we've planned it out is very detailed. And it's so different when people see what we're doing and how we're managing. Where the rule is that you have to stay out of the wetlands and by 100 feet. We've stayed out 125 feet because there's a vague definition in Framingham
Yep.
that sort of says it's got to be 125 feet. So we moved it from the old Fafford 100 feet to 125 feet. So there's no question about that. And the
Nice.
way, it's kind of my dream. We're moving the houses so they can't be seen from Grove Street, stuff. And they're all gonna be, we're gonna offer solar. We're gonna put wells in so we can be off the grid, or you can be off the grid if you choose to be, like that. So that's
How
that.
many housing units?
Probably 60. The original Fafford proposal for the same land was 179.
Mm.
So you can see,
yeah, big difference.
I've been around to all the neighbors. Most everyone except for one of the neighbors is very supportive of it. So we'll see where it goes.
Sounds like a great model
Yeah.
to, once you get it established, sounds like a
Right.
great model for other places.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And there are, a couple of other places potentially we may be able to do it in Framingham. It depends. We want to see how this goes. But it's very upscale. That my partner, the developer, is a developer from Wellesley, Weston, Newton, high-end stuff, because we want this to be a high concept deal. Not Millwood. That's how we define it. It's not Millwood.
Not Millwood. Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah.
thank you.
No, that
Very
sounds
good.
great. On the animal thing, it sounds like maybe I can take a stab at going back to Somerville. Now, I'm
Yeah,
not sure, they're not really dealing with a lot of other things, but go
I
ahead.
I would send that in, ask for a hearing before the board. I wouldn't bring Kathy in anymore because she's not a function in the regs. And
That's fine. No, I was just trying to get an inventory of animals so we knew, we didn't have to really think about sheep and pigs and all these other things. But she did say that most of their complaints are with chickens because it's kind of an in vogue thing at the moment.
Yes, everybody wants fresh eggs. And
Yeah.
gardening is also another thing
Yeah.
that we've all talked about here, but people really, I see it more and more all the time. People want to relate to the food that they eat, i.e. they want to go where they want to buy it, where it's grown. They want to see where it's grown. They want to go out and maybe pick stuff because it's sort of it's a family, there's a sort of a whimsical,
Kid-friendly.
recreative nature connection.
Yep.
You
All
want to
right, so go ahead.
Oh, that's just there's a big interest in knowing where your food comes from.
Yeah. So I'll go back and take a stab at making a simple form. I may need some help with
Can you
There's a
just
tech-
copy it and draw a line through Somerville and put Framingham on it and say, here, this is what we should do?
I still know how to use whiteout. I can do
There
that.
you go.
If
you
you need help with formatting, I can help with that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the piece where I'm probably a little short on is the tech piece. So
Yeah, can
Yep.
you forward me that again? Because I can't find it. I know you sent it to me, but I just
okay, yeah.
I wasn't being facetious, Linda. I think if you just send them and you take a magic marker or a Sharpie and just scratch out Somerville and put Framingham on it and send it to them and put for your consideration. And then that's
Okay.
the discussion. I wouldn't,
That's interesting because it might carry some weight because it says, hey, this town approved this.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I think they're really dealing with the chickens and the bees in the gardens, and there still probably needs to be something that's going to deal with the other animals, I guess. So I don't know. I'll take a look, but we'll
Well,
keep going.
why can't this page just say, what's your animal? And are there limits, you know, how many sheep I don't even think that that's been defined. Sheep, how many sheep you can have, is there any definition of how many sheep you have before you need to, you know, talk to the president of the United States?
One.
One sheep, which is, that is irresponsible because you should never have one of anything.
Well, that's true, but no, they haven't defined how many sheep, but it's more like the chickens and the dogs are the
Yeah.
only thing where there are numbers
rabbits.
We're not
and
gonna,
rabbits.
yeah,
I think it's
Sheep.
bizarre because what if your kid has like a little indoor lion head? You're not breeding that rabbit. You're not doing anything with that rabbit. It's just your kid's rabbit.
Well, that's a pet, I think, and that makes
Yeah, but they don't
Yeah.
you get rabbits like I have an Angora. He's a pet, but he's also a fiber rabbit. I'm not gonna breed him or do anything with him, but um,
we'll just leave him in the pet category.
yeah,
yeah, the less you give them to think about, the better.
Okay.
If the focus is just on chickens or bees, then leave it at that and don't
leave
put
bees.
anything else in.
Yeah, I
And
would
leave them-
leave. Yeah, I would leave bees out if we can.
Oh
if we
no,
can
yeah.
cross that out. That would be a
They-
big distraction.
They are not domesticated animals, apparently, which is why they're not included. So
And you can't own bees.
Right.
You set up a house and they either come or and stay or they don't.
right. No, we're not going there, but
Yeah.
so that's okay. So I'll keep working on it and see if we can get to something different and then changing what they already have.
Sounds good.
I'll work on some of that, and we should. Mary and Allison are here, so we should move on to community gardens.
Mary, Allison, hi. Thank you for joining us.
Oops, hold on.
There we go.
I'm unmuted. Yes.
Yep.
Sorry,
I can hear you.
great. I like listening to the chicken, sheep, bee discussion.
Yeah.
Steal that form from Somerville. Sounds good. Sorry, so we're just here to give you an update on our CPC application. Sorry, I kind of have my Halloween lighting on tonight, but I think you can hear me, right? So that's okay.
You're okay, yep.
Okay, great. So the reason we wanted to come later is we just went to the CPC meeting, which was also on Zoom, and they just extended, like 10 minutes ago, extended the deadline for the final application to the end of November. So the second version of our eligibility application, which we talked to you about the last time we were here, was found eligible. So they approved us to submit an application for a feasibility / planning study that has to be attached to 3 sites. We put in 3 specific sites, but thinking that maybe those could change, but that would be Cushing and then 2 parks, Bates Park and Roosevelt Park, because we do have the support, and now we have official support of this Coburnville Tripoli Neighborhood Association, which would really like a garden in those parks. So that's all very good. But we're still, knowing that we were approved and thinking they were due at the end of October, we were still pretty much thinking, well, that was a nice experience, but that we wouldn't be able to finish. Now we have until the end of November. So we're going to keep plugging away on trying to get this application in. The difficulty is they were very clear on the eligibility form that in order to apply, not just, so you're our sponsor, but we have to have a co-applicant, which would be the owner of the properties, which is Parks and Rec, or the Parks Department. So we haven't talked to them since June.
Who have you talked to over there? At Parks and Rec?
So we went to the commission. We went to the Parks and Rec Commission, where they did indicate that they would be potentially supportive of a study. But it was kind of vague at that point, and we didn't have any specific properties, and they also didn't put it into their minutes, which was interesting. Always check the minutes later. You guys show up to the next meeting. And so, so that our level of support is, we assume, rather thin, but we're going to continue, go forward and talk to Park again, and try to set up a meeting, hopefully with Jim Snyder, and say, okay, we're found eligible to apply. It's just a study. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have plans for community gardens at your sites? So, right, I think that's the status, Allison.
May I make a
we'll need to-
suggestion?
Sure, yes, thank you.
I'd call Jim Duane, who is the assistant director, and try to get a meeting with him.
Okay.
Because he'll be the one that pushes it up.
Yeah.
Rather than start with Snyder or whatever, Sweeney, what the hell's his name? I forget his name.
I think it's Snyder. Yeah.
Right.
Well, he seemed to be more supportive from the beginning.
But he and I, this is
Right.
another, I suppose, inside baseball story.
Well, we need the inside baseball. We only have a month.
So, that Dennis Giambetti and I do a monthly television program on the Framingham cable channel about what's going on in Framingham. And Jim Duane and Jim Snyder were on. We taped the program that'll start. It'll run. When did we tape it? So it should be on now. And in it, we talk about this specific thing, and we talk about locations for these things. And
For community gardens.
What's that?
For community gardens?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we talk about Cushing. We talk about the general park scenario, but then we talk about the specifics of where some of these nuanced ideas would go. I think because Dunn was the director before, and then he left and he came back as assistant director, he's got a feel for Framingham. Not that Snyder doesn't, I'm not saying that, but, but Jimmy has a more of a, my gut tells me you ought to have a little time with him. That's my gut.
So wait, so where can we see this? I don't
Let's
ever
go to
watch
cable
it.
or Framingham, the Framingham channel. What is it, channel
Okay.
46 or 43 or whatever the Framingham channel is, wherever you see all the meetings and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That show, and there's a promo on that runs. It runs at least once a day at various times.
What do you call your show?
It's called Framingham Today.
Framingham Today. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Did he express positive
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
vibes
There's a
for the
lot
garden
of.
at Cushing?
Well, I don't know that I felt like he had. My first question to him was, because the mayor has an initiative to try to put departments together that are doing the same thing, like the park department, the school department. They're trying to get them to do things together. So that was my first question to him, was how are you going to do that? Which he probably did not answer.
Okay. Well,
So-
that's interesting.
But then we went on to other things
Mm,
that were more palatable, and the idea of gardens, and we spent a lot of time talking about.
so
Mary
we were
Dennison.
somewhere somewhat better than potentially having to work for the school department, right? So that's good. That's a plus.
Well, yeah, I don't know how to characterize that. I just
Okay.
think that Jim Duane is a good place for you to go before
Okay.
going to the
To
commission
Snyder.
itself.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we definitely need to talk to Sarkis. We need to talk to the planning department. And Allison was going to email him
He has got so much that he
as
is
soon as
on
we
his
can
plate.
try to.
He's
Right.
he's
That's what I'm
so
afraid of.
much that he's doing, but he's managing and getting some. He's been hiring people,
Mhm.
and so there is some help there.
Mhm.
He'll be pretty supportive of this as well, I would
So-
predict.
I guess my other question to pick your brains, well, because you guys are the know more about this than we would. So it's going to be a feasibility / planning study. who should, you got anyone know, like, if you're gonna do that kind of thing, in terms of like landscape architects or firms or environmental study kind of people, who do you think would give us a little free advice about how to frame a budget or something like that?
I'd ask Sarkey.
Ask Sarkey. Okay,
Yes.
okay, so we really got to get his ear for at least a little while. And I missed anything, Allison? What else do they need to know?
No, I think that's it. We're basically we're back moving forward again after
Right.
thinking we were kind of going in a different direction. We're excited to keep, working with you guys and moving this forward. We just didn't think we were going to be doing it in the context of the CPC, but we're going to at least start digging into the full application. I'm not going to lie, it's pretty intimidating, the work ahead. So none of this is to say that like I'm certain that we're going to get it in the end, but I think we're in a position now where we have enough time to at least start
Make
taking
an
the next
attempt.
step and see what the
Mhm.
reception is, but because there's some important conversations that we need to have.
So
Not up to
let
us.
me weigh in on that for a second, if I may. As you know, or may not know, I was on the CPC before I get tired of arguing with some of the members. And so the idea of how it was all created was one of my big bugaboos, because they have made it much too complicated in my estimation. Now, on the other hand, because this is the first round, and because there are a lot of people in town looking at this, what are you going to do with our money? This may be the most difficult. This will probably be, well, never mind. This will be the most difficult year to get something done, because all the eyes are going to be looking at who applied and what are they looking for and yada, yada. So if you made it through, congratulations, the first round. Just know that it will be difficult, probably more this year than any time going forward.
I would guess that we're going to be the smallest thing there.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll make it a little bit easier.
Did anybody
It'll
say,
give
did
them
you know how
success.
did you give them an idea what you thought the study would cost?
We-
You don't know.
We know we picked a number based on study, so what we thought were similar looking projects in the database. So between like $10,000 and $20,000, but we don't even know if that's
I was
realistic.
gonna guess 40. but,
Okay,
Alright.
but even
25
so,
or 50.
that's really small potatoes compared to a lot of the other proposals.
Yeah, they've got a couple of applications that they're looking at. One of them is, I think, for 400 grand, and the other one is 500 or 600. I saw something. I haven't gone in that direction much, but
Yeah.
I know they'll have a couple of things. Sarkey wants them to take the land up on between Nixon and Wayside Inn Road, that there's a 24 housing proposal for 24 houses up there. He wants to have the town, in cooperation with Sudbury Valley, try to buy that, and that would be a bonded thing. So it wouldn't come as part of the 2 million that they have to spend just in going. Those sorts of things get bonded.
Yeah, so we saw him at this Coburnville Tripoli Neighborhood Association. He was talking about another property too, some near CSX land.
Yeah, then what the downtown thing.
There's 11 acre.
Downtown, right? I think,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think he was serious about that also. So, so we know that there'll be other possible places maybe where a community garden could go, but since the neighborhood's excited about having one at a park, we want to keep that going and try to build that relationship and help them eventually get a garden that they would like to have in their neighborhood. So
Your
just
application
keep
would
trying.
probably, the application that you've described, I'm going to guess, will be the easiest one for them to say yes to.
Yep.
I hope so.
All they're looking at, that's gonna be the easiest one to say, yep, okay.
We have to
no-brainer, next.
yeah, if we can get it done and if we can get parks to say yes, I think that's a big
Mm.
ask, but
Yep.
we'll just have to keep trying. Yeah, and the neighborhood association is excited about having a garden. So you guys are right. Everyone wants to know where their food's coming from, and people want to be growing, and they particularly want an all access, like handicapped accessible type of garden. So they know what they want, they know where they want it. They have a nice Christmas party planned, if our holiday party. If anyone wants to go to a fun party at the Columbus Club, we get to overhear that. You know, they're going concern. It was nice to see an active neighborhood association. You have a good neighborhood, Allison. They're doing their thing. You know, it's good.
Yeah, it's a good
A
group.
lot of that is Susan Petroni.
They,
She's a
they
big
keep it
part of it.
right. Yeah, they definitely. And they had people coming to them. They had the police there. They had Sarkey there. They had, oh my gosh, they got everybody, right? They had their someone from their planning commissioner there. They had Priscilla there. They people come seeking their favor. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, I guess
Cool.
that's all we have to report to you. Thank you for all your support, and hopefully, you know, when do we meet? When do you guys meet again? Do you know yet, or you
We haven't
deciding that
decided
later?
yet.
Okay, all right. Well, if it's not until December, by then we'll be able to tell you if we're done or not. And we can give you an update. If it's the middle of November, we might be coming telling you that, you know, everything is blown up and
No, don't even hold that thought.
we'll
Just-
see.
this is-
We'll be
this
moving
is-
forward. Thank you for your help.
I think no matter what it looks like, since this is the first year and they're still fine. From my
Mm,
meeting I went to with Energized Framingham, they're still finding their way. They know it's the first
Yes.
year. They know their, you know, kind of flexibility and things. And no matter what we put in, I think it'll be an easier one for them
Next
to
time.
say yes. And then,
Yes.
and we just need one project to go for proof of concept to make the rest of them go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that would be nice. All right, we'll keep it rolling. Anything else, Allison? Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, just keep us in mind, email Mary and I if anybody has any thoughts or questions or sudden
Yeah,
spark of inspiration about somebody we should talk to
Yeah.
that can help us get
Yeah.
this done. And yeah, we'd love to come back and talk to you again next month. I think the
Okay.
neighborhood association relationship, we'd like to connect them with you so that they know that you guys are supporting this kind of stuff. I think
mhm,
we've got a good thing going, so we really appreciate you guys, and
yeah,
hopefully we have some good news next time we talk.
yeah.
Great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, does anybody have anything else they want to talk about?
Yeah, I've got one more thing. Of course. Out of the blue, I think I sent it to you guys. I got an email from the Metro West Regional Director of Mass Audubon that they're committed to addressing the hunger issue, fighting hunger, but they're responsible also for managing forests. So they have
Wow.
Drumlin Farm, Broadmoor Park in Natick, and Belmont. I guess they're the three that he mentioned. This is a guy named Scott McHugh. So the other piece of this is that to manage their forests, they have twice as many deer as are appropriate for the size property. So they have a hunting program. And on Martha's Vineyard, there's also a hunting program, and they have put in place a program where hunters can drop off a deer at a processor, and then the meat gets donated to a food pantry.
Mm.
So he's in the exploring stage of trying to figure out if that program can be expanded. And he's looking for any kind of assistance he could get within Framingham, and it would have to be approved by the Board of Health, of course. So he's just asking for whatever information and assistance we can provide in at least talking to people about this program.
Why would it need to be approved by the Board of Health? Because you're taking the meat to a processor. Theoretically, that processor is already approved and allowed to do butcher meat, and then
Right.
That's a good question. Why is the Board of Health involved at all? Good
I don't know.
question.
I guess that's what happened in Martha's Vineyard. It's not USDA facilities. The processors are not USDA because they are taking an animal that's already been killed rather than animals that are live, which a lot of times boards of health are ask, oh, is it USDA approved? And the answer is no.
That's a cop out.
So it's packaged. Usually at this point, it's packaged for like friends and family only. Or not saying only, but it's not for commercial use. It's packaged so it's
Not for
not for
retail, for selling.
right. But there's no statutory reason that it can't be donated, according to Scott. So
So if that was related to one of the emails you sent,
yes,
it does seem like, would it be up to the place that was going to take the donation to
Yes.
determine that, right?
But partly yes. He's talked to Daniel's table, and David Blaze is very interested in the program.
Mhm.
I asked him if he knows about a place to turn. I asked him if he's talked to them or Natick about the venison program in particular, and I just asked today, so I haven't heard back on that piece. But he's got experienced hunters who are lined up. He's got processors in the area who are willing to talk to us. He's got the guy from the Department of Health at Edgartown, which is Martha's Vineyard, willing to talk to people.
That'd probably be helpful if Framingham's Board of Health does have to get involved.
Right. So I'm not sure how to proceed with it. Part of it was figuring out, okay, we don't have a Board of Health anymore, but
No, we don't have a Department of Health. We have a Board of
Department of Health. We do have the Board of Health. That's true. That's a good point. So it's possible to make the connection with the Board of Health.
Well, there are 3 inspectors and 1 person who's going to be the acting director. So you've got people that are inspectors,
Okay.
and regulators, yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
there's people in the department. It's just there's no final decision person.
Okay.
I don't see why we couldn't have the guy come to our next meeting and
Mhm.
Sure.
tell us about this. I mean, I don't know
Great.
what I mean, I
Right.
think it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it seems like something that it would be nice to be able to facilitate, or
Yes. That was the impression that I got. They're kind of looking at it. They want to talk to people about it and see what they can do to move it forward and make the connection. They see it kind of as an ecological wraparound, between managing the forest and fighting food issues. It's providing good sources of protein to people who need it. And
I wonder how sustainable it is. Because like right this year they've got too many deer, but next year, or the year after.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
But it sounds interesting, especially if they're not like doing any kind of birth control for the deer. There's this place in Newton. They had like a little sanctuary in the middle of Newton Center for white-tailed deer, I think, and like these people paid to take care of these deer until eventually they got too many, so they gave them birth control. Then they were too little, and they all just died out. But like fascinating little place.
yeah, I'm not quite sure on that, but it sounds like something that it would be appropriate for us to try and make inroads and
Right.
pursue at least making the connections to have discussions about it.
Yeah, it would be nice if we, good point from Natasha, like this year they have a lot, maybe next year they don't, but at least if we could help create a process for
Right.
when the meat is available.
Right, and like
so
other things,
good.
sometimes it's a good year for pumpkins and sometimes it's not, I guess.
Right. Right.
So
All right, I got one to drop on you if you're done with that one.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So I would like to have, I'm on the Mass Farm Bureau's, well, there are 2 or 3 committees that I'm on, but one of them is the Resolution Committee. And I have presented a resolution that will go to the legislature that will require, we don't know what the verbiage is, so it has to be done in whatever lingo speak they use. But the aim of it is going to be to curb the continuing focus from conservation commissions to take back land being used in agriculture for habitat. It's becoming a serious problem. The latest example is Wayland taking back about 40 acres. They took 35 acres away from me and another farmer about, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago. And now that was Sudbury. Sorry, that was Sudbury. So in Wayland, there were two huge fields that had been hayed for years and years and years. And the Conservation Commission had some new guy on it, and they just voted flat out, it can't be farmed anymore. And that's really an outrage. People are not connecting the food, the food supply to the availability of land to grow the food. And so this is an effort to jog people. And so at some point, it might be nice if we decide collectively to support it once it comes. It's a long way off from being, but I've presented it to the two reps that kind of are the main reps in Framingham. And they both, I think, will carry the ball, but it started with the Farm Bureau. Anyway, so that's something that will be more in the focus because it's becoming more and more of a serious problem, and the farmers are concerned about it, and people are concerned when they, now that we've gone back to kind of the land that we're talking about, and we want to see what food's grown. If they keep yanking the land away from us, these conservation people, then what's going to happen? That's the question, and there is no good answer at the moment.
And I don't know how all these different things are connected, but so there's a Massachusetts Farm Bureau, and are you connected with the Massachusetts Food Coalition?
The Farm Bureau is not in a formal way, but we have people that are working with some of the initiatives. That's as much as I can take, because I'm not that close to it. There's a lot of different, I belong to both the Farm Bureau and the National Farmers Union. So they take different approaches to the same issues, but in that, I don't have an answer for you, Linda, actually.
Okay, because I went a week or so ago, I went to the forum for the Massachusetts Food Coalition, and their whole thing is working on the whole food system.
Yeah.
And policy and programs that support food system injustice in food systems, and they're connecting transportation to food systems. So they're working on all the pieces.
Right. So that would
But
be, they would be
they're
helpful.
big with legislative.
Yeah. This will be controversial and probably something that the conservation commissions will fight, but it's okay.
But it having the discussion, that's okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Needs to be discussed.
Okay.
Needs to get aired. It needs to be aired because nobody's looking at it other than if people are aware of it, they're not aware of it because there's some big movement. They're aware of it because they're aware of what may be going on in their own community. But I dare say if you went to the average person in Wayland, he or she would not know that the Conservation Commission voted to exclude this 40-acre piece from being farmed anymore.
I would guess that, I know conservation comes with, good feelings about it, and you don't necessarily mean
Right, right. Oh, who doesn't want to save the turtles? Or
right,
save
if
some,
you don't
yeah,
notice the trade-offs.
That's
You
one
trade-off
side
with
of it.
housing.
The other
you don't
side
think-
is that you want to save the turtles or you want to have something to eat tonight for dinner.
Right. I don't think the rest of us really see that trade-off.
Right.
We're not diving in, so we don't see the trade-off that there's trade-offs with farming too.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
That's the purpose of having the conversation.
So how do you envision this? Not that I know how the conservation stuff works. Is it like don't take any more farmland or percentage of
I have a hard approach to this. The answer to that question is yes or no, depending on how you ask the question. I do not want conservation commissions anymore to be taking active farmland and putting it into conservation. That's my position.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that'll be the Farm Bureau's position or not, but they at least listened to me at our annual Middlesex County dinner last week to have me come and, put it into the hopper with the other 4 resolves that we have to go this year. So,
So you're saying moratorium.
yeah, I would say that's a good word. It's not
Okay.
really strong enough, but it needs to be stopped. Moratorium implies that, okay, we'll stop for a while and maybe we'll do it again.
Okay.
The land that's being used up, between the land that's being gobbled up for development, and you know, somebody could say, well, you're a hypocrite because you're going to develop some land in Framingham. Well, the only reason I did it was to stop what was being done and to do something that actually has some agricultural value to it, because that's my background. There was going to be a development there anyway. So if I can influence how it gets done and what gets put in there, then at least I've gotten something.
And there's probably very little data to say what the benefits of the conservation land has been. Probably no one's been collecting anything to say, oh, we have this conservation land. Have we noticed more birds coming back? Have we noticed?
Oh, yeah, there's none of that.
There's nothing to support it. So that would be.
It's feel good.
Mhm.
And everybody likes to feel good. Okay, we're gonna save the turtles. We'll save the spotted owl. We'll save that, you know, this worm, whatever it is that they're trying to save. But the thing that's hypocritical about it in Wayland is that they have 1,400 acres that belong to the National Wildlife Service. And they have already, a lot of it's wetland, but there's a lot of farmland that's in it that they just took 40, 50 years ago.
And there's probably a lot of invasive species that have moved into this conservation land
Yeah,
that are
it all
destroying it.
overgrown, you know,
Mhm.
if you went behind that church on that road that goes over into the wetlands from Landham Road, you can't see the field anymore because over the past 20 some odd years, everything's grown up. So it's not, it could be reclaimed, but it wouldn't be easy.
Mm.
Just kind of like conservation eminent domain, or is
Yeah,
it something that comes
That's a
up
good way
for
of putting it.
sale?
Yeah, that's a great phrase. Yeah.
It-
Yeah.
It's not necessarily coming up for sale. They're just
Yeah.
taking it back.
No, it's town land. It's town-owned land.
Oh, town-owned land anyway. Okay.
Yeah, you can't do it with a private land, but this is town-owned land.
Okay. They're
It has been
repurposing.
used for, it would be like going down to, what's the name of the street by this prison? That begins with an M?
Lyman?
Merchant Street. Yeah, it would be like going down there and saying, okay, no more farming, these 61 people. We think, the Conservation Commission thinks that it's better to have the raccoons that are eating all the corn protected. So no more gardens will protect the raccoons.
Oh, so town land that they're changing the use.
Well, it's not agriculture. I guess you could say it is conservation, but it's not agriculture.
Right. No, but the town is taking land that they already own that's currently in agriculture, but they're changing the use to conservation.
Correct, Mundo.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Yep.
raccoons would love to eat corn and tomatoes and.
Oh, yeah, they're fabulous. They'd be happy
Which
to
isn't
come.
going to be grown there anymore.
Yeah.
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 I'm interested in knowing more about it as it goes along.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Get the point.
You know, it would be fascinating, but it's probably a pipe dream. If Framingham State, I was trying to peek online on my phone. If they had an agriculture program at Framingham State, that would be amazing, but
Be cool.
I don't
Well,
think
they'll
they,
tell you that because Massachusetts, the land grant state, and the land grant colleges are the University of Massachusetts, and they have a very,
yeah.
another state school, they have a
Mhm.
very intricate, involved, and large ag division. So they would probably say, okay, you want ag, go to the University of Massachusetts.
go to the west. Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that I sat at this forum. I was talking to the person who at FSU who does the sustainability program,
Mhm.
and that's kind of encompassing
Ah,
some of
Yeah.
the garden agriculture types of things, relating it to nutrition and other job opportunities. And it's a smaller piece.
mhm.
She's trying to put it together where there's field trips and more exposure to farms and that sort of land too. So
I
So
see.
here's another idea, another exposure. A woman who runs a school, a certified school for 3 to 6 years old. It's the nature school. And she came to me to see if we could find a way to house the school at either Eastleigh or perhaps in this new environment that I'm talking about. And they have around 20, they have a campus in, I think, Hopkinton, where these youngsters basically learn about nature. It's a 12-month program. They have a certain amount of classroom time, but most of their time is spent outdoors learning about how things grow, learning about animals, whether they be domesticated. I mean, I consider a cow to be domesticated, so maybe that's not what most people think, but versus the animals that are wild in the woods. And she's a very smart woman, very impressed with her energy and what she has in mind. And because now I have basically the largest piece of privately owned land in Metro West, everybody's coming to me for this kind of stuff. They want to do what we're talking about here. How can we do more of this, or where can we? I think it's a great. Actually, I'm very impressed, as I said, with her, and I'd like to do something if I can with her to help make it work. But that's just the reason I give you this story, is because it's another example of people wanting to connect with nature and bringing people back around to sort of the beginning.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've heard another one where maybe it's not that one particular school, but it's more an education center that might be open more to, other public schools and other schools and
Yeah.
groups, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
would be a broader use.
Yes,
And I think
it needs to be broader. Yeah, I agree. It needs to be
right than
broader.
the one school, but
Yeah.
I would think that would get some support for education program about agriculture and farming and
Yeah,
food,
Yeah.
chickens and cows.
yeah.
Well, these minutes are going to be fun to write up.
Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about?
Man, haven't we talked about enough stuff? We got enough of a headache.
We
Yeah.
covered everything.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All right.
Very
Vote.
good.
All in favor, yeah, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Aye,
Good-
ladies.
Thank
good
you, everybody.
Hey, good care.
Next meeting?
Thank you.
Next
Good one.
meeting, Linda says, when's the next meeting?
And to put a wrinkle in it, I'm out of town from about the 8th of November to the like 15th of December.
So that means the next meeting will be in January. Unless there's something urgent, right? If that's the case, unless you can do it remotely from wherever you are, you choose to.
Last part of the first part of December I could, the first part I can't.
December 19th.
Can we do it on Wednesday? Or any other night beside Monday?
I'm gonna be out of the country December 19th.
Where are you going?
Israel.
Ooh.
Nice.
I mean, Israel, you talk about farming. I'm not Jewish, but Israel is one of the most fascinating. I've been fortunate. I visited about 40 countries around the world. And Israel, I've been back to Israel and England. I've been to, I almost had a place in England. My daughter went to school there. But in going to Israel, I have some friends who brought me over the first time. I went with a bunch of talk hosts the first time I went. And it's fascinating. The people are fascinating. The ideas, the whole energy, the history there just fascinates me. And I have a friend whose birthday is December 20th, and he always wants me to come over. So I am going to do that. I haven't been able to do it the last couple, 3 years for obvious reasons.
Great, great.
Yeah. So anyway,
All
but
right.
they have a great attitude toward agriculture because they're so small. They really know how to get the production out of a little bit of land and
Water.
arid.
Water.
Yeah, right. And by the way, we all, you read in the Bible of the Jordan River. The Jordan River is about the same size as the Sudbury River. It's very, very, very small,
Wow.
very small. Anyway, big in stature.
Okay,
I
I
only know
don't
that
know.
because I stood on the banks of it with a couple of Israeli soldiers. There are women are conscripted and expected to serve in Israel, and they are expected to do exactly the same thing the men do. So the last 2 times I've been down there, the women have been the guards, and they're only 50 feet from the border. You know, the river is about 50 feet wide, and on the other side are soldiers that are looking at them. You know, they have their guns, but they're all know each other, and it's like it's almost about as foolish as a reality as you could imagine. It really is.
I guess that's good to know in some ways.
Well, the kids go, you know, if you go to the old city, that's the origins of the 3 major religions are
Mhm.
in the old city of Jerusalem. And the merchants, all the Jewish merchants, the Muslim merchants, the Christian merchants, they all work together, they all exist together. And there are schools that all these kids go together to school. You know, it's if it wasn't for Hamas, it would not be the same situation. But the political realities of guys like Arafat, who when he died was worth $5 billion. How does a guy like that get $5 billion? The answer is very corruptly.
Do we want to try for the 14th on a Wednesday?
4th of December?
14.
14th of December.
I could try that.
Yeah.
Siobhan, does that sound better to you?
14th of Ag, yeah, I could do that.
I'm trying to find the 14th. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll work on the 14th for the next meeting, and then we should at least have update about community gardens and further stuff on the Board of Health, and we'll
Right.
move on from there. Okay.
All right, toodaloo.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.